Undefeated UFC welterweight fighter Khamzat Chimaev has found himself in the same boat as he once again struggles to find an opponent. The Chechen Wolf claims he's the scariest guy in the division, and that's mainly the reason why fighters have been ducking him left and right. UFC legend Daniel Cormier made a list of potential fighters who may have ducked Chimaev and even hinted how Whitaker might be tougher than the Swede. Stay tuned for more. First up, a slow and painful affair. After his dominant performance against Kevin Holland at UFC 279, Khamzat Chimaev is struggling to find an opponent. The Chechen powerhouse claims the UFC offered him 4 fights in 4 different countries, and each one of them fell through because no one wants to fight. Now, in most cases, we'd have a lot of trouble believing that, but when it comes to Khamzat Chimaev, we think the entire division has been ducking him, for obvious reasons. Even UFC President Dana White said scheduling fights for the Wolf is daunting because no one wants to sign the contract. They're afraid of him, and it's not so much about winning or losing, it's about the intensity he brings to the octagon. He's genuinely out there to hurt his opponents and embarrass them. Former UFC double-weight champion Daniel Cormier thinks it's crazy because there are a lot of fighters in the division who aren't speaking up right now. Khamzat should be the prize fight at this point because beating him means ending all the hype and moving up the ranks. But despite the career-changing opportunity, no one is willing to step up, and when we say no one, we mean no one. Not Belal Muhammad, not his online troll Paulo Costa, not even Colby Covington, or at least that's what DC thinks. And we'll talk about these names in detail. But first, did you know Cormier thinks Kamaru Usman will not be available for his rematch against Leon Edwards? Yep, he actually said that. And it also has something to do with why Belal Muhammad isn't stepping up to fight Chimaev. Next, a tactical play for the title. Out of all the potential fighters ducking Khamzat, Belal Muhammad is the fishiest. That's because he's making a tactical play for the title. But how's that even going to work out, considering the division is currently held up because of a Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards rematch? Here's where things get fishy though. Cormier thinks the rematch for the welterweight title will not go through because of Kamaru's injuries. He won't recover in time, and since someone will have to step up and replace him, DC thinks it's going to be Belal. Plus the fact that both of these guys are managed by the same guy, it's possible Belal might have some insider information about his injuries. It makes sense, and considering how the 34-year-old cleaned up Sean Brady in his last appearance inside the cage, he has a really good chance at landing a title shot. But at the same time, we can't help but wonder where all that leaves Khamzat. Is there anyone more deserving than him? Not only is he undefeated, but he's always starred in one-sided victories with his opponents doing little to no damage at all. If Kamaru can't recover in time, wouldn't it make more sense to let Khamzat fight Rocky for the welterweight title? Sure, he's having a bit of trouble cutting weight, but we're positive he can go through it again for his shot at gold. And while this could happen, we don't think it will, because the Nigerian Nightmare will do anything he can to reclaim the title. It's a wild theory though. Almost everything is riding on Usman's recovery. Moving on, it's all because of the new champion. When you think about it, most of the fighters who've turned down Khamzat have done it because of Leon Edwards. Almost all of them have a history with Kamaru Usman, with fighters like Colby going up against him twice and failing on both occasions. Maybe this is the change they needed all along, and the only way to get to the top again is by avoiding a fight against the bad boy. Oh, and speaking of Colby Covington, DC thinks he also got the call and turned it down because he's trying to line himself up against Edwards. Covington versus Khamzat gained a lot of traction a couple of months back, and if we're being honest, this fight would have been the ultimate test for the undefeated fighter. Chaos presented a real threat, but at the same time, it was an opportunity for Chimaev to tell everyone at the promotion he had truly arrived. The contrast in their fighting styles would have made it an extremely tough fight for Khamzat, but with Edwards as the new king of the division, Covington refused to sign the contract for a chance at the welterweight title. Honestly, we think it's a bit messed up how these guys are avoiding him only because of a switch up at the top, because whether you like it or not, no one is going to get their shot before Kamaru. He's the most deserving fighter out there, and if he isn't fit on the night of action, it's probably going to be Khamzat who replaces him. But that's just our opinion. Let's see how things play out. Now for the former champion himself, Khamzat Chimaev versus Robert Whitaker, ladies and gentlemen, the ultimate fight. A former champion going up against a future champion. The decider is Khamzat the real deal, and after going undefeated for 6 fights, you'd imagine he's already the real deal, right? But no, he's gone up against some really mean guys. But if we're talking about tough opponents, Gilbert Burns and Kevin Holland stand out. Burns gave him a really tough time inside the octagon, but Holland just got his backside handed to him. But a fight against Whitaker fighter? Now that would surely get everyone talking. Believe it or not, Cormier even thinks the UFC might just end up announcing the fight for UFC 284 under the Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski fight. But is Robert the kind of guy who'd duck Khamzat? We don't think so, because let's face it, the Aussie has fought guys way more dangerous than the Chechen Wolf. Yoel Romero, Paulo Costa, Israel Adesanya, the list just goes on and on. But it's possible he might have ducked him because of a switch-up at the top. Whitaker has had his go at the former Nigerian champion multiple times, and unfortunately, he's been unable to capitalize. Although, with Pereira at the top now, maybe Robert has plans of his own and wants to fight the Brazilian for the middleweight title. He's probably done the math, and we're no experts, but avoiding a fight against the dangerous Khamzat Chimaev might just be the best option right now. All in all, the switch-ups in both divisions are really limiting what these fighters are willing to do. Following up, the American gangster weighs in. Bilal Muhammad, Colby Covington, and Robert Whitaker. Is DC forgetting someone here? There's actually a fighter in the middleweight division who's the perfect man for the job. Any guesses, people? It's none other than the eraser, Paulo Costa. He and Khamzat already have a lot of history, and considering how Costa roasts him almost every day on social media, this might just be the fight to make. Of course, the Brazilian has the whole contractual issue going on right now, but since he's already said no to Whitaker, it only makes sense to fight someone easier, right? While talking about the Wolf's situation, American gangster Chael Sonnen said DC actually meant Whitaker is tougher than Khamzat, and we don't necessarily disagree with that, but it's not something we agree with either. We'd like to see them fight, because Chimaev is only getting better. Sure, everyone has their own championship ambitions, but if he's really not a threat, then why not just fight him and solidify their standing in the position? But yeah, when Cormier was talking about a potential Khamzat versus Whitaker showdown, he was simply stating his opinion. Possibly Daniel just stated that his opinion is that Chimaev is not as tough as Robert Whitaker. And if we're going off based on opinions alone, Chael probably wants to see a fight between Costa and Khamzat, but it depends on the UFC and Uncle Dana, since they'll have to pay the Brazilian a lot to make it happen. Up next, he's playing with fire. It's no surprise Khamzat is one of the most discussed fighters in the division right now. He has a habit of playing the villain, but his former opponent Gilbert Burns actually thinks he's playing with fire. When Alex defeated Adesanya to claim the middleweight title, guess the first fighter to call him out? Yep, Khamzat. The Swede wrestler vowed to make easy work of him, but Burns thinks he'll get hammered if they ever share the octagon. And it's the same with Costa. Gilbert claims the size difference will be too much to handle because both Alex and Paulo are huge. Khamzat is a pretty big guy himself, but the guys he's calling out have multiple advantages over him, and maybe it's best if he just stuck to the welterweight division for now. We respect what Burns has to say, but maybe it's time people started taking him seriously. The fact that he's still opponentless after calling out fighters from two divisions says a lot about his aura. They might not be afraid of him, but they know he's a threat. He has the potential to win, and maybe that's why everyone continues to duck him. A fight against Alex Pereira might be a bit unwarranted though, and that's primarily because he needs to prove himself in that division. But what better way to do it than a fight against Paulo Costa? Last but not least, Dana needs to rethink things. It's normal for fighters to play chess and figure out the easiest plays for a shot at the title, but Dana seriously needs to rethink things and stop this from happening. Whether you like him or not, Khamzat is, without a doubt, the most deserving fighter for a shot at the title. Uncle Dana should consider imposing a fight if contracts are going unsigned. That's it from our side, folks. So what do you think? Is Daniel right about fighters dodging Khamzat because of the changes at the top? Let us know in the comments below. Remember, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos in the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.